people have different definitions of what constitutes a bigot. So I don't really know. I have to ask the person that uses the word. That would be the procedure according to what I've written. When anybody uses the word, have the person explain what they mean when they use the word and what I'm supposed to do with the word as a result of them telling me what the word means. Because words are nothing but tools, just like in a toolbox, a tool chest. So if a person says bigot, first thing I would say, what is a bigot? What is the description, the definition of a bigot? What does a bigot do that nobody else does? Why should I pay attention to a bigot? I might have 30 questions just about the word bigot before we even begin a discussion, because evidently somebody's handing me a word. They want me to do something with the word. They're handing me a tool. And if I don't know what the tool is, I want a description of what I do with that tool that they just handed me. That's following the logic that came with the universe. Whatever created the universe also created logic to go with it. And I always tell people from what I've written, follow logic. Don't follow people. People make too many mistakes. I don't care what kind of people they are, what kind of person. The only person that doesn't make a mistake is the person who thinks that they don't make a mistake. And that's the biggest mistake. And history has proven that. Now, the second question was?
Racist.
Can anybody be a racist?
Right. How do you define a racist?
Oh, a racist is a white supremacist in the system of white supremacy. And that's the only system that dominates the behavior of most of the people on the planet, and also people who are naturally racist. It dominates their thinking, and the people who are the victims of racism, that dominates their thinking. Now, that leaves just the white people who are neither the practitioners of racism, nor are they the victims of racism. But they are apparently, on the surface, powerless people. The white people that don't believe in racism don't have the power that the white people who practice racism have. And the logic behind that is, if the white people who don't practice racism were more powerful than the white people who do, then we wouldn't be having this conversation about racism. Now, the victims of racism cannot be racist. You can't be a racist and at the same time be a prisoner of war of the racists. You have already been captured. You were born in captivity based on what the racism wanted. And that is, if you're a person of color and you're anywhere on this planet, you are in the racist system. You are subject to the dictates of those white people who believe in white supremacy. That rendered you completely helpless right from birth. Because when you came out of your mother's womb and showed up on this planet called Earth, you automatically came under the jurisdiction of those white people who believe in and who practice racism in the form of white supremacy. So you can't be a black supremacist and be subject to white supremacy at the same time. That doesn't compute. You try to put that in the logic computer, the screen goes blank. I mean, it's just no way to do that. There's no way to be subject to a supremacist and be supreme yourself, or even be free from the supremacists. If you're subject to the supremacists, that's a one-way ticket. You're subject to the supremacists. You do what the supremacists tell you to do. That's what the word supreme means. That's an important word, supreme. Can this person make me do what they want me to do? And when I look around for some options, when I look around for some help, I can't get it except from the person who has me locked up in their slavery system called the system of white supremacy. Now, there are some people who say, oh, that's a lot of nonsense. Who is this nut talking this nonsense and whatnot? And that's the question, you know. So it comes down to the question is whether what I've said and what I will say throughout this program is either true or false. And if anybody finds anything false, if anybody thinks that white supremacy doesn't exist, exists, they should call in and say so, because nobody
Right. Hang on a second,
nobody
Dr.
should be
Neely
getting
Fuller
away
Jr.
with
We got to
this
take a
stuff.
quick break here. Stay with us. 800-450-7876. Your calls are coming up next on the AM 1450 and FM 95.9 WOL, where information is power. And thanks for rolling with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. Of course, he's, most of you know, he's Dr. Wilson's mentor. She said that. Number to call to speak to him, 800-450-7876, another class on racism, white supremacy. And again, you got to listen very keenly, because Neely Fuller Jr. used his logic to explain everything. So it's, a lot of times it may go over your head, but don't feel embarrassed. You can raise your hand by dialing 800-450-7876. And Neely Fuller Jr., before we left for the traffic update, you were explaining to us about the difference between racism or can whites be racist, and you were explaining that whole deal. So I'll let you finish up that explanation. And if you can add my question, are all white people racist?
Oh, well, I can't answer that, because I don't know all white people. See, part of what I write is what, is supposed to be based, first of all, on that most important word, truth. Always seek the truth, and be willing to reveal it in a way that helps to produce what? A product called justice that's never been produced, and correctness, which is balance between people and environment and all like that. And that's an equation. Truth plus justice plus correctness should equal a hypothetical thing that we call peace, something that the people on this planet have never experienced, because you have to have all three of those things. You have to have people who are always truthful, people who believe in justice and who practice justice, and people who practice correctness, meaning doing the correct thing about the environment, the air, the water, treating everything correctly, and putting everything in balance rather than going around knocking everything out of balance like the white supremacists do. They enjoy doing that because it causes chaos, and they thrive on chaos among people who are vulnerable. And the people who are vulnerable are the people that they classify as non-white. That's why you have a system of white supremacy that is the most powerful government on this planet that the world has ever seen. That is now the only government on the planet. There is no other government other than, in capital letters, the system of white supremacy. So that's what that's really all about. And the victims of white supremacy are people that they classify as non-white. Black, brown, red, yellow, beige, tan, anybody who has color in his or her skin. And this system is set up to do what? To dominate and mistreat. Not only to dominate. See, domination is not necessarily something evil. A so-called mother or father, uncle, or anybody might dominate someone, but as long as it has a constructive result, you have dominion over. Domination means having dominion. There's nothing incorrect about that. But that second part, dominate and mistreat. Now, if you tell a person what to do, that's domination, because they don't know what to do or don't know how to do it, or even if they know. They just listen to you and let you just tell them what to do. You walk into a carpenter shop, and you might know something about carpentry, but you might decide on your own. You have a foreman here. I'll just have the foreman. I know something about carpentry, but I'll tell the foreman here what, and that's why they call the foreman, foreman, forewoman, to tell me what to do in the carpenter shop. And even though I already know something about carpentry, but I decide, I will let that person or committee of persons tell me what they want done in that particular carpenter shop. And I will just listen and then carry out their instructions. Why? Because I elected to do so. But and even if I did it in a stubborn way, I'm making that decision. And so they're not mistreating me, because I'm making the decision to go along with whatever they are doing. And they are not mistreating me. The whole time I'm working in that carpenter shop, I get excellent treatment, meaning I don't get mistreated. That's the key. But the white supremacists are dedicated. I mean, vocally, they say it, that their job, that they are ordained, many of them have said, they take out a whip or they take out a gun, and they do this right up to 2017. And they say, you will do what I say do. I will not only dominate you, and I will mistreat you. And you better not even think about doing anything about it. Because I'm ordained to do what I'm doing. Because of what? You are the incorrect color. You are a person of color. And I am a person of non-color. I am ordained by being white to mistreat anyone who I classify, and they do the classifying, as non-white. Black, brown, red, yellow, beige, tan, or even if there are some purple people somewhere. Avatar.
Well, let me interrupt you and ask you this, then, Neely Fuller Jr., before I take some calls for you. On the system of racism, white supremacy that you've outlined, would Donald Trump be a racist?
Now, what I have written is absolutely forbidden, according to logic, for a victim of racism who is a prisoner of war of the racist to call a suspected racist a racist. Because all you can do is suspect. You can't prove anything. And anybody who has tried it, and I'm going to say this is very important, any black person who thinks that he or she can themselves, with no help from another white person, because that's what you're going to need, prove that any white person on this planet is a racist. Anybody who has tried it has found that out. And anybody who wants to find it out, try it and see how far you get. If I'm going to give an example. If I pointed out Mr. Donald Trump as being a racist, all Mr. Donald Trump has to say is, oh, you call me a racist? Prove it. That's all he's got to say. Prove it. 2 words. Now, you know what I've got to do? I better go and get me a white person to back me up. Because under the system of white supremacy, no non-white person can prove on his or her own that racism even exists. You got nobody to prove it by that's got any power to prove it at all. The people that you go to get to prove it are not going to have any power. And if you don't believe it, do it. That's what I'm saying. If you don't believe it, do it. Try it. Try that. Many people haven't even thought about that. But in a system of white supremacy, if you are black, brown, red, yellow, if you're a person of color, and you call somebody a racist, it will not stand up at all. Your charge will not stand up at all under the system of white supremacy unless you go and get a white person to verify your charge. No black person can prove the existence of racism in the system of white supremacy. None. Right. Nowhere on the planet. You can't prove it because you don't have anybody to back you up. See, it takes muscle to back that up. And only the white supremacists on this planet, on racial matters, have that kind of muscle. It's a criminal operation, and just like the Corleones, they're the only game in town, like in the movie Godfather. In other words, you've wiped out all opposition. So only you got complete control of the prison now. All right? Everything else is falling by the wayside. So that they are made beggars. See, I can beg for a white person, come and help me prove that Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so or Captain So-and-so is a racist. Sir, if you will. And if that white person says, I'm not doing that, because I say that the person is not a racist. I got nobody else to run to. If I run to a black person, that black person is going to have to go and run to a white person. I'm saying if you don't believe this, try it. Anywhere on this planet. that proves the existence of white supremacy itself in the minds of those who follow logic.
All right, folks. I told you, got to use logic. That's what Neely Fuller Jr. uses to express his point. Again, the question was Donald Trump a racist? He asked that, and just came over the news a moment ago. He's canceled the Cinco de Mayo celebrations at the White House, and it's been honored for many presidents. Anyway, this weekend, there'll be no Cinco de Mayo celebration for the Mexican community at the White House. What are your thoughts? I'm going to take a quick break, and we come back, and we'll take your calls right here. 800-450-7876. Get you in to join the discussion. Your calls are coming next as the big show rolls on from AM 1450 and FM 95.9 WOL, where information is power. And thank you for staying with us. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr., folks. We're talking about racism, white supremacy. What are your thoughts? 800-450-7876. Baruch is holding for us in Washington, D.C. He's on line one. Baruch, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr. Is Baruch there on line one?
Good afternoon, Professor Fuller. I have a couple of questions. One, is it okay in 2017 going forward that we stop using the two words together, white and supreme? Is it okay for us to finally stop using those two words together, understanding that as we express those words and as I listen to those words, we're giving power to the word? That's one point. The other is, when we think about in nature, what this entity of people represent. They represent a people who, as a result of, or a natural consequence of being inferior, spiritually inept, envious, and jealous of people of color, they have taken and created this institution that is, in large part, founded upon fear, that then causes them to be motivated forever to continue their supposed domination, because I don't think, their supposed domination. I believe we have the power, but we acquiesce and we give the power over to them by using the terminology that we use so consistently, which I think is so inappropriate. And then when I heard our brother talking earlier that they represent the strongest government, the only government, the most powerful on the planet, it's their game, and we just pawns in the game, then aren't we acquiescing and saying, well, we can't beat this? And then my question is, well, then what is our connection to, one another and our connection to the Most High? What value is that? Not that we.
All right, let's give him a chance to respond, Baruch. Good questions.
And sometimes I have. Oh.
Go ahead.
Sometimes I have difficulty understanding the question. Now that's my fault. Sometimes I have difficulty understanding the questions that people ask me. I'm probably one of the few people that goes on the radio who has that kind of difficulty. And that's probably my fault, because I'm supposed to have understanding of what a person is saying if they're saying something. But if I think that I understand what the person is saying, the terminology that I'm using to describe a situation may be in error. Now, I'll have to say to that, if that is the question, I don't think so. Because I believe in using exact, razor sharp, without fail, terminology that really fits. I don't mean fits kind of. I mean really fits the situation that we have. Just like a surgeon calling that part of the brain surgery, say, or heart surgery, calling everything exactly what it is, not calling it something else, calling it exactly what it is. And no matter how difficult the surgery might be, if you find cancer, you say, well, let's just call it a mild headache. Say, no, this is liver cancer. This is not a mild headache. So what are you going to call it? You're going to call it a mild headache and go down there and tell the rest of the staff, the nurses and whatnot, to go down and treat patient number 17 for a mild headache, when my diagnosis has shown that this is galloping, terminal liver cancer. That's what I'm dealing with. And when I go in that operating room, that's what I'm dealing with. I'm not dealing with a mild headache. White supremacy sends that kind of message. That's why they are still supreme, because people keep calling it something else. I've heard it called, like one word that is used in the early part of this program, bigotry. That doesn't tell me anything. But if somebody says it's white supremacy, I got one question. Is that true or false? Are people who are classify themselves as white and believe in, because they're white, dominating and mistreating people of color, do they actually do this? Are they actually supreme? And when they, even if they say they are acting like they're supreme, do the victims of them act like they are supreme? These are questions. And when you examine the facts, when you examine if you're a person that really seeks truth and don't cut no corners, don't try to get feeling good, because many people, when they're told that they have cancer, what they want to do is be told something else. Why? Why do you want to be told something else when you're told that you have cancer? It's because you want to feel good. That's why. And I can't hold that against anybody. If this is all about feeling good, about a terrible situation, about an actual truthful situation, if we want to use terminology that'll make us feel good about it, like going around in the cell block in a prison and handing out cotton candy to all the prisoners and say, well, we can't give you justice and we can't release you, but we can make you feel good in your cell. And so a lot of prisoners say, well, yeah, give me some cotton candy, or cotton candy doesn't work, give me some cocaine. And don't ever let me out of here, because I'll imagine that I'm already out if I get enough coke, because that's probably what I'll do when I get out. So the white supremacists say, that's my kind of boy. That's the kind of people I like. They make excellent slaves forever because they want to feel good. There's a scene in the movie, Saving Private Ryan. I looked at it about 3 times in a row recently. And there's a sniper that's in that unit with a captain. And they're fixing to hit a German position that has to do with World War II. And the captain, played by the actor Tom Hanks, said, you know, he's talking about, we got to hit this position up here. It's not really a part of our direct mission, but it's a part of our overall mission. So we're going to take out this radar site. Now, so it's going to be risky, but we're soldiers, and we're going to have to do it. And so the sniper, a very thoughtful person, a very logical person. See, I'm not disparaging any scenario that anybody brings up. I want to say that, because these are excellent scenarios. Why not do this? Why not do that? Why not change the language? All like that. Well, I've been changing the language, but I'm not going to change the language in such a way that I get away from the truth. Now, this sniper said, he said, Captain, I don't feel good about this. This looks like this is real risky. And the captain said, when is the last time you felt good about anything? Implying you came through the Battle of the Bulge. You're going to have to fight your way all the way across France, and then all the way across Belgium, and then into Germany. And your chances of coming out of this alive are very slim, being in a Ranger battalion behind enemy lines. But we're going to hit this position, because this is not about feeling good. This is about getting this job done. And it doesn't make any difference how risky it is, and it doesn't make any difference how you feel. Now, that's what I interpreted all of that. This was supposed to have been based on a real event in World War II. And I say this is a position that I recommend, because I say if we accept the proposition that white supremacy does not exist, and that makes us feel good, and we find some cozy word to call it something else, we'll just say it's a maladjustment, or that we're being, molested by some crazy people, if we say that, and that's a recipe for success, then those who can do it, according to what I've written, welcome to it. But I say it's best to call things by their correct names, and that gives you more strength than anything to really know what you're up against and act like you're up against something that's very strong and not trivial at all. And you can't play with it, because any soldier on a battlefield does not want to make what mistake? Underestimate your enemy. That's always a mistake on any battlefield.
All right, 800-450-7876. Baruch, I hope that answers it for you. Again, you got to listen very keenly. And supreme and white, and not the, sort of taken out of context. It's the system of racism and white supremacy. That's how Dr. Wilson explains it. Anyway, let's go to Kansas City on line 3. I know we're coming up on a break. Got to take the traffic real soon. But Robert, your question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Oh, yes, sir. Carl, Carl, you have Mr. Fuller on, and Saturday, on the other talk show that comes on WOL on Saturday, a black lady, she raised an interesting question. She says she doesn't understand how the progress that black people have made through slavery, through the Jim Crow era, and why all of a sudden that this progress came to a stop. And so when she made that comment, Carl, and Dr. Fuller, the question I asked myself is, the progress that black people think that we made, did we make that on our own, or did the white supremacists, are they the architects of this so-called progress that we made? And the progress that we think we made, we really haven't made any progress at all. And the evidence that I come up, Dr. Poole, is how far were black people into obtaining their own freedom before President Lincoln got around that round table with his other comrades up north, and they decided to write the Emancipation Proclamation. No black person decided to...
Hang on a second, Robert. We got to take the break right now. We got to check the traffic and weather in the DMV. I'll let you finish up your question for Neely Fuller Jr. Folks, you out there can join the discussion. Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls next. It's a big show. It rolls on from AM 1450 and FM 95.9. WOL, where information is power. Thank you for staying with us, folks. Hope your day is going great. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. We'll get back to you in a moment. Just want to remind you, coming up in the next few days, we're going to hear from Dr. B, metaphysician, and also, who else is going to be? Let's see. Richard Muhammad is going to join us tomorrow, actually, from The Final Call. It's the only black national newspaper put out by the Nation of Islam. We're going to talk about all these controversial murders of young black men or trials. You got Jordan Maxwell. I think he was the teenager in Texas who got shot, and then Alton Sterling ruling in Louisiana. They decided there wasn't enough information to prosecute the police officers who shot him. There's shooting down in San Diego, La Jolla, University of California, San Diego, out there. There's also who was the other killing there? Michael Slager, the police officer who killed a young man in South Carolina as well, and he shot him in the back when he was running away. It just seems crazy. There's so much. And there's some inmates in, I think, Wisconsin who died because of lack of water. Wow, there's so much stuff that the Final Call is working on it. Again, that's the only national black newspaper we have. And Richard Muhammad is the executive editor. He's working on all those stories, so he's going to join us tomorrow, and let's see if we can wrap them up. But let's go back out to Kansas City, Missouri. Robert, you put in a question for him so that Neely Fuller can respond. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to wrap this up, Carl. The comment I was making was before Abraham Lincoln got with his comrades around that round table up north, black people were nowhere near obtaining their freedom. So this freedom that this progress that we think we have, that we thought that we've had all these hundreds of years, the white supremacists has been the architects behind this illusion of progress. And so I would like to, Mr.
All right, that's a good question. Was it us or was it them? Neely Fuller Jr., was it us or was it them?
What's that you just asked me?
Was it us or was it them? All the progress that we made, was it made because they allowed us to make the progress, or we made it on our own? That's basically what Robert is asking.
The answer is yes.
Yes to which one?
On our own.
We didn't.
They allowed us.
Okay.
They still had power. We didn't walk in and say, look, by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, you will release every slave that there is under your jurisdiction or in anybody's jurisdiction, and whomever they were talking to, if they talked to anybody at all, or else. See, that's the way it's always been down through history. In other words, like the Corleones, I'm going to give that example again. Somebody might remember in The Godfather 1. The Godfather doesn't make requests for the second time. If he's turned down for the first time, you find a horse's head in your bed or something else. In other words, you're going to get made an offer you can't refuse. Now, black people, according to everything I've read, weren't in any position in the 1800s to make an offer to anybody that they couldn't refuse. So that decision was made, presumably, by the white supremacists of this world themselves. We are going to modify our style of practicing racism. That's all that was. People sometimes ask, when did slavery end? And you get a grade on it in school and all like that. But the true answer is, it didn't. When did black slavery end? It didn't. Nowhere in the world. So-called colonialism, which is slavery. When did it end? It didn't. Why? Because you still have white supremacy. I mean, so calling it by another name didn't change that. So what was the name that it was called? Slavery. So what is slavery? Slavery is nothing but a form of mistreatment that you haven't figured out a way to do anything about it. It's just another form, it's just another name for one other word that I use all the time, mistreatment. Anytime somebody is mistreating you and you don't know what to do about it, you are a slave to the person who is mistreating you. That is a law of logic. That's a law of physics. That is a law of the universe. See, we need to tap into laws of universe and not get faked out by the misuse of language. That's where the problems come from. We call things all kinds of things, even in this discussion today. A word like bigotry. What's the definition? I've looked at the definition. It didn't make much sense to me. You know, even the word justice doesn't make much sense. That's why I made up a compensatory word. I have a whole book that I have written called a Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide, where I came up with a definition for justice myself because I was completely dissatisfied with the way the word justice was being used. Everybody talks about justice, no definition. So I came up with a two-part definition for it. Part one, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's clear. There's no shilly-shallying. Number two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And I put it in the Codified Word Guide. But when you look in the average dictionary, when you see the word justice, you also see the word fair. Now, fair also, see how word tricks come in to play? You associate the word fair with the word justice. You call it fair play. Then you associate the word fair with white. My fair lady. Treat me fairly, mean treat me whitely. Don't treat me with that dreaded blackness. You're treating me in a black manner, all right? Oh, these are dark days. Fair, my fair lady. Oh, now I'm being treated fairly. And then you associate the word fair with justice. See, we have to pay attention to words. I'm not doing anything unique, really, except slowing down and paying attention to details, because the white supremacists are the greatest detail study people. That's why I say they have the greatest minds that they use. I won't say that other people can't learn stuff. It's just that we won't learn stuff. We have contempt for learning. The white supremacists study everything. They study a grain of sand. Because of what? Simply because it's there. You walk right past Brian, in the library, in the laboratory, and you say, "Hey, Brian, what's up, man?" what's that you're studying? You say, I'm studying this grain of sand. Now, Brian is white. And you say, what are you studying that grain of sand for? I'm studying it because it's there. It's here on this planet with me. And I never saw a grain of sand like this before. And so what are you studying it for, Brian? I don't know. I'm just studying it because it's there. It must have a use. It must be something, some reason why it's in the universe. Well, how long have you been studying it? Oh, for about 15 years. You've been studying a grain of sand for 15 years, Brian? Man, you crazy. And I'll walk on down the hall because I'm, the smart Negro that knows everything. I already know everything. I ain't studying nothing. I'll walk past a whole pile of sand. I don't even look at it. I'll go somewhere and raise some sand, but that's about it. I have no interest. But this is why Brian becomes my master, because he studies everything, including me, in detail. In detail. That's why I say white supremacy. To reiterate what I've been saying on this program and what I say all through my book, I'm not shaking loose from that term. I'm holding on to that term because that is the truth. We shouldn't be afraid of it. We should be afraid of running from the truth like we've been doing. Black people got this slogan we made up among ourselves, keeping it real. We're the most unrealistic people that ever existed. Why? Because we make up stuff in order to do what? Feel good. That's why I got to harp on this. This is real important. We have an African-American museum down there. I have not been there. I'm right here in Washington. But I hope that they're not teaching anything in that huge building that has to do with celebrating anything. This is not about celebrating anything. The ugliest thing that a black person can do on this planet in 2017 is celebrate anything. Why? Because we are eons behind where we ought to be by now. Actually, eons, thousands of years behind. Not just a few hundred, thousands and thousands and thousands. From what? From where we should be. Where should we be? We should be universal man and universal woman with precise minds doing everything that we do in a constructive manner with a constructive result. Doing all areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. We should do always the most constructive thing in every minute of every day in every area of activity. And we are nowhere close to that. And we'll take 2 or 3 little baby steps, and now it's boogie time. We're the boogiest people in the world to be the most backward people ever. And complaining about everything and doing nothing about it. Now, it's not because we are bad people in the total sense. It's that we've been trained to be that way. Trained by whom? The usual suspects, the white supremacists. Because they are our fathers and mothers. They're our illegitimate fathers and mothers. That's who they are. That's who we run to with our babies in our arms and whatnot. Say, please give us this. Please give us that. So we are babies ourselves. There's no such thing as a black man and a black woman in the system of white supremacy. Not one, nowhere on the planet, since the beginning of white supremacy. Because you can't be a man and be a woman and be subject to a system like white supremacy at the same time. It is totally impossible. So we're all children. I'm just trying to rush a lot of stuff in here so I can squeeze the truth in, because we are so blind and walking right down every kind of false road you can name. I mean, getting involved in every kind of stuff. I mean, worshiping hair and all this type of thing, where it becomes it consumes our entire minds, and thinking that that's some kind of magic thing. I heard somebody say today on an earlier program, well, hair is the antenna of a black man's brain. So if he grows his hair, he can receive word from the Creator better. Well, What kind of messages have we been sending, receiving to that hair? We need to get on another frequency with the kind of shape that we're in. We got a whole bunch of black people who are out here messing up big time. They got plenty of hair. So there's no proof of that. None at all. But we make this stuff up in order to do what? Feel good. We'll do anything to feel good. That's why we do this cocaine thing. We'll dive right in and think that that is the solution to all our problems. One more tattoo, one more hairdo, 3 high fives and a hug, and that's the solution to everything. And we call that black culture. That is absolutely horrendously shameful.
Hold that thought right there, Neely Fuller Jr. We're going to take a break here. Neely Fuller Jr. is on fire. 800-450-7876. We mentioned we take a break so our stations can identify themselves. We come back, take some calls for him right here on AM 1450 and FM 95.9. WOL, where information is power. Thanks for staying with us, folks. It's shade after 6 on the East Coast. If you're driving home, please drive carefully. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. Another discussion on racism, white supremacy. I should say the system of racism, white supremacy. And if you could shut up on the answers, I'd appreciate it. We've got calls for people who want to ask you questions from all across the country. So we'll start with line 4. Gregory's calling from Charlotte in North Carolina. Gregory, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Good evening, Carl and Dr. Fuller. Yes, my question is that we describe white supremacy as a white supremacy system. And every system has a beginning and an ending. And I wanted to ask Dr. Fuller to provide some information about the beginning and origins of white supremacy, whether there's a original text that describes, the rules, regulations, the goals of that white supremacy system, looking back in the past. And secondly, looking in the future, I want to ask Dr. Fuller, what does he see for the future or the ending of this white supremacy system? Because it can't last forever. If you could look back at the past and also at the future of that system and give us his opinion on that.
All right. Thanks, Gregory. 2 good questions.
The answer is to the first question, when did white supremacy begin? The answer is, from me, I don't know. And I haven't made a great big effort to really find out after I've talked to a few historians, because I concluded that using logic, do I really have to know the entire history of white supremacy? See, when you talk about history, how much history? And I raised this question to some historians, people who study history. How much history do you need to know in order to do what needs to be done in any category of anything? How much history do I have to know about the moon in order to go to the moon? Do I have to know the very day that the first speck of dust that became a part of the moon became a part of the moon? The first little speck of dust, because the moon is made up of little specks of this, that, and the other, whatever it's made of. Whatever created the moon. Do I have to know the entire history of the creation of the moon? Meaning, do I have to know the beginning of creation itself in order to know enough to go to the moon and back? And using logic, a little fun, rudimentary logic that has come into my mind the little time I've been on this planet, which is not a whole lot of logic that I've acquired, I came to the conclusion I don't need to know very much history of anything dealing with white supremacy about the actual day or the minute or the person who first said, hey, let's start a system of racism. Do I really need to know what the second cousin of that person was? Or the exact year or the exact moment? Or what they were doing, or whether or not they had eggs for breakfast on that day? Do I need to know all of that? in order to do what? In order to eliminate it. And I came to the conclusion it's based on what I might call kindergarten logic. No, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know how to move a rock on the moon by looking at that rock and say I can't move that rock unless I know the whole history of how that rock got there. Why? Because here on Earth, I have moved a rock. You know, the rock was in the way, so I just kicked it out of the way. I was walking down a country road, and the rock was sitting there. I didn't know the history of the rock. I didn't even know what kind of rock it was. I just kicked it, and the rock went sailing to the side of the road. And that was the end of that. So I say, dealing with white supremacy is the same thing. That's kindergarten logic. Yeah, I don't know, have to know, I have to know the history enough to know that the rock is there. And I have to know the mechanics of moving a rock. In other words, if I kick the rock, will it move? And so, I don't know. So I kicked the rock. And the rock went sailing to the side of the road. So I say, well, I didn't know the history of the rock. Was it a quartz rock? Was it a diamond? Was it some type of other rock that I never heard of? But I know one thing. I moved it. Why? Because I figured out the mechanics of, in order to move the rock, the size of the rock and the size of my foot, and a good swift kick would send the rock sailing to the side of the road. So I kicked the rock. Now that was a long-winded expression to answer the question that was asked. But I'm trying to frame within that one question the answer to thousands of questions that would be asked like that, following what? The logic that comes with the universe. See, sometimes we don't need to know everything about everything in order to get up off of a log and walk across the street, rather than sit there and look at the other side of the street and talk forever about, I wonder, is it possible to get to the other side of that street? And sit there and sit there and sit there and study the whole history of the other side of the street before I can get up and walk across the street. That's a very important lesson, and that was a very important question that was asked. Now, that's question one. In other words, we just need a code for eliminating something that people made called racism. That takes care of question number one. I'm trying to write a code that will do that, and I'm trying to do it in record time, because I say, well, one thing in answer to the second question, you better believe that I believe that white supremacy can end, and when it will end. It will end when, just like that rock, we stop looking at it and kick it. But in order to kick it, you have to know the mechanics of doing so. See, and that might take not just like kicking a rock, things that you do, things that you don't do. Because everything is about doing and don't doing. Everything is about saying and not saying. These are the laws of the universe that came before Neely Fuller was ever thought about in, his mother's mind or the Creator's mind, really. So logic came with the universe. We need to tap into logic, which is what the white supremacists teach black people not to do. Don't be logical. Always talk about how you feel. If you're a Negro got plenty of feelings, but do not attach those feelings to logic at all. Go get a white person if you want to deal with logic. 1 and 1 is 2. Fire will burn. Water is wet. The white supremacists study these things. That's what they go by. All right? They use feelings to be inspired to study these things, but they don't act on their feelings until they know exactly what they are doing. A black person is systematically taught in the system of white supremacy by the white supremacists to do what? To go by what you feel. Feelings change every 2 or 3 minutes, and they are totally unreliable unless they are attached to what? Logic. Your feelings are just a live wire, got plenty of energy, and black people have a lot of energy, but they have to be attached to something that makes sense. Otherwise, that's energy like a live wire, not attached to anything, with a lot of power in it, and you see a live wire lying in the street, don't you come nowhere near it. And it's the same with a black person. Don't you go nowhere near that black person with a whole lot of energy, but not attached to anything that makes sense. Because what will happen? You'll get electrocuted. You'll get shot. Anything might happen. That's a live wire, but it's not attached to anything that makes sense. It's just thrashing about all over the street. I mean, bumping up against cars and all like that. I mean, that wire's alive. I mean, it's swirling all over the place. I mean, and that is a picture of black people all over the world. All this energy and not attached to logic. And the white supremacist sits back and watches that live wire, studies it, and then takes control of it. Just like you take control of a snake's head. And then they'll take all that energy and put it right where they want it to go that will serve their purposes. That's what white supremacy is. And what did they do that was different? They did some thinking. They say, now there's a whole lot of energy. How do you harness that energy? You focus it. That's what you do. And where do you focus it? On doing something that you want done. Now, they don't know what they want to do, and that's why they're all over the place. They haven't set a mission, except doing what? Impressing each other. And that's not a worthy mission for all that energy that black people have been given by the creator of energy. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. 800-450-7876. Can we take another question, or do we come up on the break? Oh, okay. We're coming up on a break real soon, so I'll just give some information about the Power Talk Conference taking place Friday, June the 23rd, and also Saturday, June the 24th. You're going to hear from Dr. James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries, Tony Browder, Dr. Umar Johnson, Dick Gregory, Dr. Claude Anderson, Professor Ray Wimbush, Dr. Renoka Rashidi, David Banner's going to stop by, and also Dr. Patricia Newton. And the first 100 people who buy tickets are going to get a pass to the museum. Tony Browder is going to conduct that interview or that tour of the museum, and that's going to take place on Thursday. But we got to take a quick break and take our last look at the traffic right here on AM 1450 and FM 95.9 WOL, where information is power. All right, and thanks for staying with us, folks. I forgot to tell you, if you want more information on the Power Talk Conference, go to powertalkseries.com. This year, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing Freedom Fighter Award goes to Dick Gregory. Last year, it went to Dr. Claude Anderson. So, again, just go to powertalkseries.com. 800-450-7876 to speak to Dr. Welsing's mentor. His name is Neely Fuller Jr. Just go to Leroy on line 5. He's calling from North Carolina. Leroy?
Hey, Carl, how you doing? And Dr. Fuller, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Hey, how you doing, sir? I guess I'm
not Dr. Fuller. I'm Neely Fuller Jr. I'm not a doctor. I never cured anybody of anything.
Well, you're doing a good job with me, sir. Hey, Carl, I got a quick point I want to make to you right quick before I ask Mr. Fuller a question, okay? And that is, you mentioned the Nation of Islam publication is the only one in this country, but there's another one. It's called the Muslim Journal, and it's global. And there's actually one more. It's called The Thinker. That one is, right now, I think it's just national. But all three are excellent publications, you know.
All right, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would invite everyone to, check them out because they're jam-packed with current information. My question to Mr. Fuller, who I enjoy listening to very much, you were talking about the influences of white supremacy earlier in the show, and I was, to the point where I got kind of mind-boggled, because basically, it all is true until, economics, all the way down the line, economics, and what have you, social, rotten social construct, unfortunately. But my question is, when it comes to the religion or Christianity, it comes to a screeching halt. And it's an area where instead of just menacing control and pushing around other people and forcing them to do this and do that, when it comes to religion or Christianity, this whole thing comes to a screeching halt and everyone's singing Kumbaya or something. I want to see what you thought about that.
Leroy, put in a question for him so he can respond. That was basically a statement, so he can respond to a question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That sounds like a statement. No, I just wanted to know, I just wanted his opinion on why, it stops at Christianity. The rotten influence from the white supremacists seems to come to a screeching halt when it comes to religion.
Okay.
I just wanted to hear his insight.
All right, cool. Thanks for your call. Neely Fuller Jr.?
Well, if I understand the question, you have two words here. I pay attention to words, strict attention. I heard the word Christianity. I heard the word religion. So first of all, what is Christianity? I mean, what exactly is Christianity? And what exactly is religion? Now, what I have written in the textbook for victims of white supremacy that you can get by going to producejustice.com, I have written that the procedure, when we get to religion, the seventh area of activity, I call it, what is a religion? So I define a religion as any strong belief that's backed up by action. So when I look around for the strongest religion on this planet in 2017, it goes straight to one, the most powerful religion that ever was, in action. It has more of the most skilled, most powerful adherents, the most intelligent of people that support it, and the most effective. And that is the religion of white supremacy. There's no religion in recorded history that up to 2017 has proven to be more efficient and more powerful and more organized. See, now, every other religion, you have people running around doing this and doing that. You have people who call themselves Christians hitting each other over the head with the Bible. You have all kinds of people squabbling about Buddhism, squabbling about Confucianism, Sarkogakia, Falun Gong, the Hindu religion, all kinds of facets. They'll say these are facets of the Hindu religion, or these are segments of the Hindu religion, or these are denominations of Christianity, Catholicism, First Baptist, Second Baptist, Reverend Jones Baptist, James Monroe Baptist, and all of them arguing and squabbling among themselves. I've heard arguments. I think I heard something that sounded like it could be a disagreement on the program just prior to me coming on today. All over the place. Squabbles between people who say that they are Muslims. And then somebody will say, yeah, but what kind of Muslim are you? And so it becomes Shiites and Sunnis and something else and people fighting, killing, Judaism, black Hebrews. You got black Hebrews. You also have things called black churches. And you say white churches. People say that without even skipping a beat. A black church and a white church. Wait a minute. I thought you were Christian churches. Well, we are Christian churches, but, those people over there, that's a white church. We don't go there, and they don't come here. Oh, wait a minute. We're all one in Christ? Yeah, but, I'll explain it to you later. And then when people start explaining it, the explanations get more and more complicated. But I discovered just by standing back and looking and looking and looking for a long period of time, and I concluded that the strongest of all these religions is a white person that believes in white supremacy and comes around and checks out everybody else's religion, particularly whatever religion that non-white people practice. Buddhism, Confucianism, Hinduism, Christianity, whatever it is. And they walk in and they take a look, and they look for one thing. Does your religion hurt the business of white supremacy? Because if it does, they will walk right up to you. If you're a person of color, and they will tell you, you can't practice that here. You can't practice that anywhere around. In fact, you can't practice that nowhere on my planet without my permission, or I will overrule your religion and your gods. If you got a dozen of them in Hinduism or whatever, I'll overrule all of that. I don't care nothing about that, because my God is stronger than any God that ever was as a white supremacist. The white supremacist God is stronger than any God that ever was. And I'm not in the process of proving that, folks. That's what the white supremacists say. I have proven it. You all out here trying to prove something, that you believe in this and you believe in that. But when I come around, if you got color in your skin, what you show by your deeds is that you believe in me. Because I am what you call on this planet. Now, you may call on your God, I don't care what you call it, if you got color in your skin. But when you are really hurting and you need help, you will get on a leaky boat with all your children. You got all your tribal religions and whatnot that you dance around the fire and talk about, or you say you're a Christian, or you're a black Hebrew, or you're a Muslim, or you're this. But I see you in boats trying to ask one question. Which way did the white people go? Which way did the white people go in 2017? After thousands of years of saying your religion will protect you. Well, if you got color in your skin, why doesn't your religion protect you from all the vicious things that the white supremacists just do with their feet up on the desk and eating a sandwich? And they do it all with just pushing a few buttons on some kind of little console or something. We're going to have to answer for that. Because for some reason, the system of white supremacy has stronger believers and the most powerful believers because they prove it. They don't talk about what's coming. They talk about what is now and what has been as long as they have been in business when it comes to people of color. And I've heard people of color say that they have been from church to church, from religion to religion, that they have latched on to religions that I have never even heard of. And they say that after they have been, and listened to the sermons and all like that, that they find that the people of color who are preaching to them, when the white supremacists come around, they always say, can I have permission to do this? Can I have permission to do that? Can I build a parking lot outside my church? They don't go and say, God told me to build a parking lot and I'm building it. No. They say, I got to get permission. So God must have told you to get permission, right? And now the white supremacists, watch this. Because
Hold that thought right there. We got to take a quick break, Neely Fuller Jr. 800-450-7876 to speak to him. Your calls are coming next right here on AM 1450 and also FM 95.9 WOL, where information is power. Staying with us, folks. I hope you're following Neely Fuller Jr. And those of you who've taken a logic course in college, you probably grasp it a lot faster than most folks. But you've got to think that this is one of these shows that you just can't listen with one ear. You've got to just really get into it, because he uses logic to explain everything. And having said that, Neely Fuller Jr., if you can shut up on the answers, because still got a bunch of folks from across the country got questions for you. So I'll let you finish what you're going to say before we left for the break.
Yeah, well, I just want to say this as a bottom line. Now, I'm not criticizing anybody's religion except one, and that's the religion of white supremacy. Why? Even though they say we're supposed to have freedom of religion, why would Fuller, going along with that, say that he's going to make an exception? Because that's what, in the Northwestern Hemisphere, you're supposed to have freedom of religion. You practice a religion that you choose. Nobody imposes religion on you. That's what we're told. But there is a religion being imposed on me, and that's the religion of white supremacy. That's what you call it. It's a religion. And what is a religion? A strong belief backed up by action. Now, why do I keep emphasizing that? Because I've heard people make statements like, all down through the years, a person would say, I'm a member of such and such a church, and my religion is such and such a thing, but I don't practice it. How can you be something that you don't practice? That's my question. And I've asked people that. You have to practice a religion. You can't be an airplane pilot without being an airplane pilot, without piloting airplanes. I mean, that's not logical. And you can't have a religion that you don't practice. The white supremacists are the only people that I have ever encountered who practice every part of their religion. They don't say I practice part of it. Sometime, maybe. Like many people will do that, depending on what the circumstances are. And that's almost in every religion. I have seen people say things that they say they believe in, and then I see them do things that does not correspond with what they said. The white supremacists are the only people I've ever encountered that don't cut corners on their religion at all. Everything that they say they believe in, which is mistreating black people, they do it. And they do it with maximum efficiency. And that is the strongest religion I've ever seen when they practice that, because they back it up. They don't back up at all. They don't back down at all. Nobody has made them cut corners on their religion. Nobody. Everybody, every type of politician, every type of super scientist, nobody of color has made them back down on anything. They will, listen to a person and listen to some complaints, but they make the decisions just like this program started off this evening. They'll listen to someone say, well, I don't like being on a plantation, and, I don't think I should be no slave. I think, you should give me some other position here on the earth that you rule over, So they say, well, we got some modern conveniences here. We got different types of employment. Picking cotton is just one of them. So we can put you in factories and all like that, and put you in ghettos and all like that. How about that, And then, and give you some guns and some drugs and let you kill each other, keep each other occupied. I mean, you people don't know what to do with yourselves, so I always outline what you're going to do. So I figured that out. Okay, so I'll let you get off the cotton plantation. That's all. I have a little dispute with other white supremacists about it, but we kill each other and all like that, but we settle our disputes and we shake hands. We'll knock each other out and kill each other and slaughter each other, but we shake hands. Because there's one thing we agree on. We're going to continue to practice white supremacy. That's what white supremacists are. That's a part of their religion. They don't mind killing each other. But it's just like any gangster operation. Gangsters kill each other. But they come to the table, like Clemenza said in The Godfather. They do this every 10, 15 years or whatnot, cleans out the bad blood. Then they all shake hands, and then everybody goes back and gets a piece of the action. The action of whom? Just like they said in The Godfather, those animals that you call black people, those coloreds, let them lose their souls. They're nothing but animals anyway. They even look like animals and try to look like animals. I just added that because we do. Because, after you're treated like an animal, you start trying to go around looking like one. Do everything you can to look like you're wild. All right? Don't have no brain at all. Cannot think. Just subject to jump up and do anything. Half your skin hanging off of you in the form of what we call the sagging pants. Message pants is what I call it. Now, I'm not saying it's a mess. I'm just saying it's message pants. If I deliberately drop my pants and walk down the street, I'm sending somebody a message. It's just a matter of, and I'm not criticizing it now for people that do that. I'm just saying, I'm just asking a logical question, because everything's supposed to be logical. What is the message? And what is supposed to be the result of the message after everybody receives it? What is supposed to happen that's so wonderful? What is this wonderful thing that's supposed to happen after somebody sees me walk down the street with my purple shorts on and my pants almost down to my knees? I'm sending a message, because I deliberately did this. This was no accident. I spent 2 hours getting it like that. Okay? So what is the message that people are supposed to receive? And here's the real important part. What are they supposed to do after they receive my wonderful message? I just thought I'd throw that out there.
All right. Well, hold on right there, because we got a bunch of folks who want to talk to you. 800-450-7876. Let's go to Philadelphia. Ralph's been waiting for a while. He's on line 6. Ralph, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Hey, good afternoon, Carl, and good afternoon, Mr. Fuller. I've been waiting for a while. I want to make a statement, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Fuller a question. Mr. Fuller, when you describe white supremacy, I wasn't even thinking about white supremacy. I'm thinking wicked, evil, devilish, nasty, greedy, oppressive beast. That's what I'm thinking. If somebody called me a supremacist 30, 40, 50 times, sooner or later I'm going to believe that I am supreme, and the person calling me that, them and their children are going to think the same thing. So, I'm just asking a question, because maybe, I hear Carl saying all the time, if you don't understand the system of white supremacy, then you're going to be confused about everything. I see the system for what it is. I don't sag. I don't do any of those things, take a leaky boat to follow the white man. I don't do none of that. So I'm trying to find out what is the end base? What is the solution out of everything that you're saying about white supremacy? Because in my opinion, ain't nothing supreme about none of them. And I'll never use that term. So I just want to ask you, what is the solution, and what are you trying to get across to our people? Do you want us to believe in the boogeyman? That we might as well just throw away our firearms and walk out in the street and let them handcuff us. I mean, that's what I'm getting out this whole program. So if you can explain, I'll appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Everything that you have said is excellent and should be thought about in depth. And after everybody thinks about it, because I use the term all the time, and I am going to continue to use it. I just want people to think about it and then make their own decision. They don't have to use the term. They can use the term saying, like some people say, some people have even concluded and told me, I'm making it all up, that not only does white supremacy doesn't exist, they ain't supreme over me. There ain't no white people telling me what to do ever. I do what I want to do. I've always been my own man. I've had people say that. And I say, well, you should try to get everybody to follow your example, because then we won't even be having no conversation about race at all, if everybody follows whatever your example is. That's what I would recommend that you do. Tell people to just do all the things that you do in that world that you have discovered, because I haven't discovered that world. See, my book is written for people who are victims of white supremacy and who know that they are. And it's written to put them in a state of mind where they face that fact and start doing the things that will eliminate it and replace it with justice. I've written a whole book, not just about what the problem is. Yeah, I can see why anybody is tired of that. That's why I started writing. I got tired of listening to what the problem is. And so I tried to write a book about the solution. And if this book is not the solution, and I say first thing, if you're going to solve a problem, you have to be willing to face the truth, even when it hurts, because pain serves a purpose. That's logical. Pain would not exist if it did not serve a purpose. When you get I had a bunch of toothaches, and I've had all kind of other aches in the years I've been on this planet. And when I got an ache, and I couldn't figure out what was causing it, I went to somebody and asked them to tell me what's causing the ache. And a lot of times, like in a toothache, I found out from a dentist, you have an abscess tooth. That's what's causing your pain. That's an alarm bell going off. Pain serves a purpose. Your body alerted you, hey, you better tend to this. And you think you're going to ignore it, it's going to keep getting worse. Okay? So I chose not to ignore it. In the case of my tooth, and in the case of a lot of things when I had pain. And someone who faced it and say, hey, I'm not going to kid you around. You got an abscess tooth, and this particular tooth is so rotten, it's got to go. It's got to go. And I say, yeah, but if you pull it, it's going to hurt. Yeah, I know it's going to hurt. But it's going to hurt a whole lot more if you keep ignoring it and calling it something else. So I use that same analogy to start using the term white supremacy. Because first of all, is it true? Is it true?
Right. Hold that thought right there, Neely. We got to take our last break. I'll let you finish on the other side. 800-450-7876. Get you in. Speak to Neely Fuller Jr. We'll take your calls next. It's the big show. It rolls on from AM 1450 and FM 95.9 WOL, where information is power. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I hope you're really following what Neely Fuller's saying. You got to use logic to do it. I know sometimes it sounds difficult, but it's really, really very easy if you break it down. Anyway, coming up in the next few days, Renoka Rashidi's going to be here. That's Professor Dr. Renoka Rashidi, world traveler. Also, Dr. B is going to stop by. And Richard Muhammad, the executive editor of the Final Call, is going to be here as well. So tell your friends to keep it locked on AM 1450 and FM 95.9. Neely Fuller Jr., I'm going to let you finish up what you were saying, and also tell folks how they can get your book, because I know we won't be able to get to everybody, but there's still a bunch of people who got questions for you.
Yes. Okay, I want to continue. Now, people do not, that's why I call it the United Independent System, with a dash between the United and the Independent. Whatever a person wants to believe based on what their experiences have been, then you go with that, because there are messages that are sent to each individual by the creator of each individual that is not sent to anybody else. There are no two people who are exactly alike. So I just ask people to listen to what I'm saying and see if there's any truth in it. And first of all, that's the first thing you look for. Whether it's a white person talking, a non-white person, any kind of person, half-drunk person, listen to what the person is saying. You might hear something true, and you might hear a whole lot of things that are false. So there are people who have said to me all down through the years, oh, Fuller, come on, face up to it, man. I mean, you bought into this thing about some kind of old white supremacy and whatnot. That's a whole bunch of myth. It ain't nothing to that. I mean, you ought to stop saying it. But then I would go back and I would check and I would take into consideration what the person was saying. But when I would check and triple check and double check and watch my own behavior and watch the behavior of everybody that I ever encountered, I said, oh no, this is real. I mean, this is a real toothache. I'm not imagining this. This is really real. There is such a thing as white supremacy, meaning white people who mistreat non-white people, and the non-white people don't know what to do about it. That is supremacy. That's the definition of supremacy. Anytime I do something to one person, and that person is scratching their head and coming back to me and asking questions, and I'm kicking them, and and anything that they want, they get from me, and anything that they're dissatisfied with, they got to come and consult me, and they just keep coming back and keep coming back. Well, I will assume from that type of activity that I am supreme over that person. I'm mistreating this person. And this person, even though they will declare that they are independent and that they ain't thinking about me, don't even like me, but they're dependent on me for everything. Economics, money, house, education, transportation, or loan. I've heard black people say, "Oh, no, white people tell me nothing about what to do. I run my own business. I mean, I believe in black economics, and I'm black, and I got my own garage, and I got this, and I got that." I say, can it be taken away from you at any time? Well, no, without going through the courts. And I say, who runs the courts throughout this entire world, period? When you say going to court, who are you talking about? Are you talking about somebody from Mars? See, all you got to do is just keep asking questions. Questions and answers will always lead you to the truth. And I'm a person who believes in, just like on this program, asking every kind of question you can possibly ask. See, just don't stop at one question and one answer. Ask a million questions if necessary. There's no such thing as too many questions until you get all the answers. And I haven't found out anybody yet who could prove by all of their deeds that they don't come under the system of white supremacy. And I mean all of their deeds. Because if you are under the system of white supremacy in one, you're under the system of white supremacy in others. Now, I have not seen anybody. I don't say anything. I just stand back and watch. A person say, nobody tells me what to do. I do what I want to do. I don't have a boss. I ain't never had no boss. I've heard people say that. And then I look around, and I see them responding to all kinds of bosses. And I don't think they're even aware of what they just said to me. I'm looking at it. And I'm wondering, am I missing something? This is a person that said they don't respond to nobody. Everybody responds to them. And the person is black, walking around in a planet dominated forever for everybody that's on this planet now by people who believe in white supremacy, either directly or indirectly. I don't see any evidence where white supremacy doesn't exist. None. Not a shred of it. And I would like for somebody to show me, not just talk about it, actually show me. And I will tell everybody to follow that person. And I usually don't tell people, in fact, I tell everybody, don't ever follow a person. Because nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Logic is what you follow. So, but I hear a lot of people say that, no, I don't answer to no white supremacists. But see, since I don't know the people and I'm not able to watch them every day, go everywhere they ever go, and watch their entire existence on this planet. See, you don't take this one thing. Sometimes people will say, oh no, I got a black boss on my job. I'm not just talking about a job. I'm talking about overall. Who does your black boss go to? See, well, he opened his own business, whatnot. Well, where did he get the money to open his own business? Where did he get permission to open his own business? Well, he runs business in Africa. Wait a minute. Africa? Where is that? Who do the people in Africa answer to if they are black, if they are people of color? In all 9 areas of activity: economics, education. You'll hear somebody who say, I am a proud African. My original name. And I am fixing to get educated. What you do is watch the person in the process of getting that education, and then you ask yourself, where is this education coming from? Okay. I mean, just watch where the person goes. Next thing you know, that same person says, yeah, I got an education now. I'm gonna now educate all the rest of my tribe. I'm not knocking this. I'm just talking about, let's face truth. And you say, oh, you got your education? Well, that's wonderful. Now, where did you get it? I got it in the University of London. Oh, okay. Case closed. White supremacy. directly and indirectly. That's what we're talking here. Unless I'm missing something.
Right, and we're racing the clock, so I want you to tell them how you can get the book before we take another call for you.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com, and I'm not just talking about in that book about what the problem is, because I've already concluded what the problem is. It's white supremacy. I make suggestions about what an individual can do about it, and that's one suggestion that I am making because I have found it to be effective. I don't try to use anything that's not effective. When I start using the term white supremacy, and you can get the book by going to producejustice.com, I notice white people sit up and take notice. They don't like to have that term attached to them, even though they gave it to me. That just goes to show you something. You ought to study why that is. I can say that they are nobody. I can call them, all kinds of names. I hear black people calling white people names that I never call them, and will not call them. Names like cracker and all this type of stuff. I don't use that kind of language. But if I imply, and I don't even call them white supremacists, but if I say that they could be one, it seems like they back away from me when I say that. Now, why is that? Black people ought to ask why that is. It might be because I'm coming close to the truth. And that's one thing that the white supremacists never want a black person to come anywhere close to, is the truth. The system of white supremacy demands that only white people are supposed to know the truth about anything. And black people are supposed to pump themselves up on everything that is totally nonsensical false.
All right, let's see if we can get another call in. Hold on, Neely Fuller Jr. Line 1, Marasho, I hope I'm going to pronounce your name correctly, in the district.
Yes, Horatio.
Yeah, can you make it quick for us?
I don't call. I want to ask Mr. Foley, would you say white privilege is the product or the benefit of white supremacy? And if you can just elaborate on white privilege.
I use the word supreme. And I notice there are a lot of white people who feel very comfortable with the word white privilege. Because what does privilege mean? Privilege means that you ask somebody, all right, that you made a contract with somebody. That's what privilege kind of implies. See, that's a softer word than supreme. See, a white supremacist in 2017, the refined white supremacist, does not want that label at all. But that's exactly who they are. Because they are the ones that tell people what to do. And people that they tell what to do, when they tell black people what to do, and it's not just telling them what to do, it's telling them what to do that's going to be of harm to black people. And the black person doesn't know what to do about it. You have to keep your mind on what supreme means. It means you are faced with something that is overwhelmingly harmful to you, and you don't know what to do about it. Whatever that force is, if it's nothing but a bear or a moving wall or a tidal wave or a white person, a person with white skin, making you do something you don't want to do and you don't know what to do about it. That is supremacy by any definition, like it or not. But supremacy can be overcome if you face that fact. You have to face it first. You can't run and hide from something that's supreme over you. You have to turn around and grab it by the horns. But you have to know how to do it. But I know I can understand it. Fear will make me say, well, it ain't happening. Drug me up so that I don't feel it. And many of us do just that. Get drugged up so that we don't feel the effects of white supremacy. Because that's why we're getting drugged up. We can't stand the pain. And we don't know what to do about it.
All right, we just got. We're out of time. Neely Fuller Jr., I thank you, folks. I hope you understood. If not, we're just gonna have another class. But don't feel bad if you didn't get it. We'll try it again. Thank you, Neely Fuller Jr. We got to get out of here, running late as usual. Stay strong, stay positive, stay in the light. See you tomorrow at 4:00 right here on AM 1450 and FM 95.9. WOL, where information is power.